Bluff City Media presents the Two Buck Sports Show. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Drew Gann and Rusty Witten. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a Thursday edition of the Two Buck Sports Show. I am your co-host, Rusty Buckets, checking in here live on your lunch break with my man, Drew Gann, a.k.a. Uncle Buck. What's up, brother? How are you, man?
Man, I'm good. I feel like I've made it out the other side. I'm at like 85% voice now. So I think that's a win for me and a loss for everyone around me.
Basically, yeah. And I was thinking about that before the show. I'm like, it's only been 2 days since our last show, but I feel like I hadn't talked to you in forever because you've been under the weather. And so we haven't chatted a whole lot. We were texting some yesterday during the college football games in our group chats, but I hadn't heard from you. So glad to hear you're still alive and kicking down there in Ripley, Mississippi.
Yeah, the week started on Thursday this week. I finally kind of feel like I'm back into my routine. I went to work this morning, and it's lunchtime, so that means a Two Buck Sports Show, and everything is right in the world, and the world is spinning on its axis correctly. So glad that we are just kind of back into the swing of things.
Yeah, exactly. That's the hardest part for guys like me and you, because we're both kind of the same. We both like routine. We like things to be kind of like the same and doing the same things every day. And so when the holidays come in, usurp that, it's hard to get back on rhythm sometimes. So it's nice to hear you back on your feet.
Yeah, it is. And it's especially hard for me and for husbands of teachers because it is just chaos around me, despite the fact that I'm trying to live a normal life. I still have 4 kids running around here with a wife trying to just keep a lid on most messes, which is just a losing battle. So God help her. But, my life has moved on, and they're still at the house.
Yeah. Well, speaking of at the house, we're going to do a quick detour. We normally talk about Grizzlies, and we have a lot of Grizzly stuff coming up today for you, I promise. But we would be remiss if we didn't at least touch on the epic Game 1 yesterday, the beatdown in Game 2, and then the game that never was, or that shall be today, I guess I should say. Right. So for those who lived under a rock, we had our college football quarterfinals yesterday. 2 of the 3 games were played yesterday, or 2 of the 4 games were played yesterday. We already have Penn State beating Boise State earlier in the week. Yesterday afternoon, Texas beat Arizona State in an absolute thriller, the best of the college football playoffs so far. 39-31, only to be followed up by a schoolyard beatdown. Ohio State laid the absolute wood to Oregon yesterday afternoon. And the Ryan Day, let's fire Ryan Day chants got a little quieter. Not all the way, but a little bit. So any takeaways from the games yesterday?
Yeah, so, I was able to sit down. I was painting a kitchen. That's how I spent my New Year's Eve and my New Year's Day. And so I like to paint because it's kind of monotonous and it's perfectionist work. And I threw in some headphones and some music and went to town and then just kept up with the score. And then once I sat down, they were like, this will be the first of 2 games today instead of 3 due to the terror attack in New Orleans, in which my jaw hit the floor. I was like, what the crap did I miss? And I found out about the tragedy in New Orleans, and thoughts and prayers with those folks. That's terrifying.
Absolutely.
I've been to the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day in New Orleans. I've been on Bourbon Street, and that's just terrifying. And so thoughts and prayers to those folks, those families dealing with that. But the show does move on, and it does happen today. And so first takeaway was Cam Scatterboo is amazing. I love him. He single-handedly willed that Arizona team right up against victory to the point to where you can be mad at officials. Yeah. And if you get to that point, then you've played a pretty good game.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's all Arizona State could have asked for yesterday. Cam Scatterboo was the most entertaining thing yesterday because he was talking his talk all week. That whole team was talking crazy. And then he kind of laid an egg early. Texas showed up. They got tired of listening to his mouth. They had him throwing up. I'm about 98% sure he had a concussion in that first half, the way he was behaving on the sideline. But then he found his rhythm, man. And, props to Kenny Dillingham and the team, and especially Cam Scatterboo for getting him back in that game. But I'm not so sure I'm going to anybody other than number 4 on that last play in overtime to try and get that touchdown. It was a lame duck pass that got picked off, but Kane Scatterbo was by far the most entertaining thing yesterday.
Yeah, and he just, God help him, he had no legs at the end of it, and who would? You know, an overtime game in which he had 250 all-purpose yards. At one point, they said on the broadcast that he had outgained Texas in yards. Yeah. And he had a 60-something yard touchdown pass. He had a big receiving catch. He had multiple touchdowns, a 2-point conversion. I mean, the dude was absolutely stellar yesterday. And then to take us into the last game, we wanted about 5 minutes into the Oregon-Ohio State game, we just realized we wanted more Texas-Arizona State.
I mean,
because that game was over from the start. Jeremiah Smith, house call. I mean, from the get, it was awful.
Oregon lost that game when they decided to wear silver helmets with white pants. Of all the myriads of uniform combinations they could have wore yesterday, that was nasty work. I did not like that at all. Like the chrome helmets, like if you're gonna do that, like go all chrome and like chrome and gray, chrome like chrome and all black, but the chrome hats, white pants looked atrocious, and the play matched it. Like Ohio State just was ready, man. I don't know that it was so much that Oregon was that bad, because Dylan Gabriel, you know, they put up some stats and some garbage time late, but Ohio State was just ready, man. They've been tired of hearing about Oregon all year, tired of listening to them after that loss, and made a big statement yesterday.
Yeah, I'm kind of a hater of Oregon's uniform, like the kind of shtick that they do. Like I like the classics. I don't necessarily like when you do 12 games and 12 different combinations. Ole Miss does that now. And so you know that I'm being honest when I say I don't.
No, I agree. Yeah.
And however, I loved Oregon's yellow and green jerseys. It's one of my favorite jerseys they have. Yeah. I'm a hater of metallic helmets. Just as a rule, agreed. I don't want anything metallic. I don't want the face mask metallic. I'm just a hater of that. And so for a guy who's typically a hater of the Oregon uniforms, the jerseys were my favorite. And
the jerseys were fine. But the chrome silver and chrome green on the helmets, the white pants, I didn't care for it. Go green and green on the bottom if you're going to wear those chrome helmets. But they have so many. They wore one earlier this year where they had a white helmet with the duck on the side. Like that would have been clean yesterday. Yeah. Something like that. I'm a huge fan of white helmets, but the chrome didn't work. Play was worse. And then today we get two traditional powerhouses. You've got the Georgia Bulldogs playing Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowls, being, like you said earlier, got moved to today.
I could have swore you were about to say Ole Miss. 7:00 tonight. Ole Miss takes on Duke. Two traditional powerhouses.
Yeah, something like that. Well, we have got Georgia Notre Dame kicking off today at 3:00. So get through your lunch break, get your work done between 1 and 3, and be ready to go for that game this afternoon. Early thoughts. Notre Dame is good. Like, Notre Dame is a good football team. They play really good defense. This just feels like a time where Kirby Smart's got a point to prove. Georgia's been kind of slept on. They've been kind of counted out. They haven't been really given the props that they normally get this time of the year. This feels like a game where Georgia's going to flex.
Yeah. I typically always side with the SEC teams when you run up against Notre Dame, because Notre Dame historically has never fared well against SEC teams when it matters the most. However, you know, Georgia is a flawed team this year. However, most of their flaws when they've stumbled this year has been because of the inconsistent quarterback play of Carson Beck. And Carson Beck has no shoulder. He's not playing. I imagine he's probably done for the whole stretch run here as long as Georgia stays alive. And Kirby Smart made interesting comments saying that the team is more willing to fight for the new guy rather than Carson Beck, which I thought was pretty damning. Yeah. And it's probably just a sign, just encouragement for the new guy, knowing that Carson Beck's not going to play for Georgia anymore.
Ever again. Yeah. So, but tune in today at 3:00. We at least wanted to touch on college football before we get to the reason that all of y'all are here. And that is the Memphis Grizzlies are back in action this weekend. One real quick little sidebar before we get into that Suns game, because I do have some thoughts on that I want to get to. DeMichael Cole, about 10 minutes ago, tweeted out the first fan returns in the All-Star game voting. Currently, your Memphis Grizzlies in the Western Conference front court. Jaren is 10th in the fan vote. And in guards, Ja Morant is 7th in the fan vote currently.
Yeah.
So get out, vote often. NBA.com. Takes a quick second to create an account and vote.
Yeah. You've got a real opportunity here to Jaren deserves it. I mean, let's just be real. He has had the best season so far. He's played in all but 2 games for the Memphis Grizzlies, and he deserves it. And so for the fan voting portion of it, you'd hate for that to be the reason why, he doesn't get left out, doesn't get put in. Now, I know it's only a portion of it, and then eventually I think the fans decide the starting 5 or listen, I don't know how it's going to be anymore. We now have 4 teams that we're trying to fill instead of 2. So who knows? But I do know that Jaren Jackson Jr. deserves to be on that All-Star game roster.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The way he's been playing, he's playing at an all NBA level. He absolutely should be an all-star starter. I understand like Nikola Jokic being ahead of him, that kind of thing, but maybe Wemby, but he should at least be on the roster representing the Western Conference because of his play this year. It's been unbelievable. And it's getting better and better, highlighted by the Phoenix Suns game on New Year's Eve. The Grizzlies had the deck stacked against them, right? We had 9 players on the injured reserve. We didn't have barely any NBA players once again. It was 2023-24 all over again, where it was Jalen, it was Dez, it was Jaren, and a bunch of G League guys. And our superstars stepped up when we needed them to. You had Desmond Bane going for 31 points in 36 minutes, and Jaren in his all-star level scoring 38 points in 37 minutes, finishing with 12 rebounds as well for a double-double. And the shorthanded Memphis Grizzlies got a win. And it was a rough day for the negative, downtrodden, negative side of our fan base that wanted to say, oh, this team can't win without Ja, can't win with the injuries. We're not even going to keep it afloat. And what do? We go beat a healthy Suns team outside of Bradley Beal getting hurt in the first quarter. Great win for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, I mean, if you just listened to me, you would know that the Grizzlies were going to win this game. I said it on the show on Tuesday. Said, listen, the Grizzlies beat the Phoenix Suns. I don't know why. Doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes. We just beat the Phoenix Suns. And Jaren could have went for 60 if we're being. I think he had 18 in the first quarter. There was nobody on that team that had a prayer of just standing in his way on offense. And so they were just absolutely incredible. John Conchar continues to show out again. They lit the bad signal. You need John Conchar when it mattered most. He had a tip out to lead to a wide open Luke Kennard 3 that sealed it. Just like everybody says, call 46.
That's it. Call 46. Yeah, Jaren had 19 points in the first quarter. At one point, he had 19, and the Suns had 18. He had outscored the entire team. But, it just was another night where Jaren was the best player on a court that had Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on it. And Desmond made a case for being the second best player on that same court based on the way they played. It started early. We got the first bucket was a Jaren turnaround little floater. The second one was a Desmond layup. We jumped out to an 11-4 lead, and we never looked back. And it was it's nice to see those guys being able to get in a rhythm and pick up the slack when we don't have Ja, we don't have Edie, we don't have our typical horses. I mean, Jalen Wells finished with 11-6, and he had Book in hell there for a little while. Jalen played some really good defense. They still got some here and there. He was playing well on Kevin Durant the few times that he was on him. I was impressed by Jalen Wells, but we did miss Edie. At one point, it felt like Mason Plumlee was scoring every point. He finished with 12, but there was a stretch there where in the third quarter when they were making their run, where every time down the floor he was getting a dunk, and we missed Edie size.
Yeah. It's so nice to have a guy like Jalen Wells that you just know is just going to handle their best perimeter defender. Yeah. And he did that again. And listen, we've said it 100 times with guys like Devin Booker and James Harden and Steph Curry, you're never going to shut them out, with the exception of Steph Curry. You could shut him out. He did get shut out.
Because we did.
But you've got to make it difficult, make them inefficient. And Devin Booker was not efficient. largely because of Jalen Wells. And so props to him. You got to think Zach Edey's coming back here pretty soon.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what the timeline with Jake LaRavia looks like. But you got to think that Zach Edey's coming back here pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll probably have Edey back. If not Friday, for sure, I would say by Saturday. Again, it all depends on how he feels coming out of concussion protocol. One of the best things that came out on New Year's Eve was some pictures of Santi Aldama in his full warm-up gear taking threes and jump shots before the game. Like, that was very reassuring to me that this is a very low-level sprain, and I wouldn't be surprised if he at least got a doubtful designation over the weekend or heading into that, I think it's Monday that we play Dallas.
Back home.
That could be a good chance that we see him in that game.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they target home games for returns for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 more games on the road trip. You've got Sacramento and then Golden State again, and then you're coming back home for a 2-game stand against the 2 of the teams from Texas, being Dallas and Houston.
Yeah, and I'll be at the Houston game. Maggie and I got tickets to the Thursday night Houston game, so we will be there for that one.
There you go.
And I hope that we could get a Zach Edey, Steven Adams matchup. Watching those 2 cats go for rebounds and play against each other would be just chef's kiss and just what I need to see.
It would be nice. It would be nice to see Zach Edey in that game and to see some Steven Adams minutes. I hope they do a tribute video for it.
I do too. I'm not ready for that, but I'm sure they'll do something. I'm not ready for that just yet, but maybe it'll happen. But speaking of that, we could use him Friday night before we get that far out. We're playing at Sacramento Friday night, 9:00, way past all of our bedtimes here in God's time zone. But the Kings are coming in, or we're heading to the Kings' house, and the Kings are coming in this game just a little bit kind of volatile. You've got De'Aaron Fox has now jumped to the front end of a lot of trade rumors. It's looking like, I think I saw the Spurs, the Lakers, maybe the Rockets or some teams that are kind of targeting him. They fired Mike Brown just not even 2 weeks ago, barely a week ago. And this team feels like a team kind of reeling that we might could jump up and get another win on this road trip.
Yeah, that's a weird situation that's going on there. I know they fired Mike Brown, which kind of seemed out of nowhere. Everybody thinks Mike Brown's a really good coach, and I think he was Western Conference Coach of the Year last year or the year before, and which is apparently something that you never want to be because you're going to lose your job soon after. But there was weird comments.
Most of them were fired within the next 2 years out of the last 10 or 15. It's wild.
Right. And so it's kind of weird comments coming out of there. Initially, they were like, well, they tried to trade for this person and tried to do this and never could make a trade work, so they fired their coach. And I was like, that doesn't
track
match up. And so, it just seems like they're trying to make their superstar happy. And the next step, if you can't mend that, is that the superstar goes out the door for a ransom.
Yeah.
And it came out that in free agency that he would like Toronto or Orlando or Houston, kind of the typical hot spots. And so curious, I've always been very high on De'Aaron Fox. I think he's a great player.
Great player.
I would love to see him go to the Eastern Conference because he's one of the few guys that I feel like can stay in front of Ja when Ja
That's always
get downhill.
Great matchup because they're both super athletic, very fast twitch, can get up and down the court quickly. And so I would hate if he went to the Lakers, man. Please. I'd love to see him in Orlando. Orlando's a team that I'm kind of quietly rooting for in the Eastern Conference, and they're 1, maybe 2 pieces away. And a point guard like De'Aaron Fox could help get them over the hump. It's going to be a tough matchup for us in the post, though, because Domantas Sabonis is coming in just on his usual tear, doing his usual things, averaging a double-double, grabbing rebounds left and right. He is currently averaging 20.6 points, 13.8 rebounds, and 6.1 assists per game. That's going to be a tough matchup for Jaren from a rebounding standpoint, because Jaren doesn't rebound super well. And Sabonis is much like Zubac and these guys that we play that are just a freaking vacuum under the rim. But Jaren can get him in space and tie him up. So I'm curious how they're going to play Sabonis from a defensive standpoint, because I don't think that Jay Huff can do it. What are your thoughts on the post? Yeah,
we have never seen, or that I can remember or recall, seen Domantas Sabonis going up against such a skilled rebounder, the ilk of John Conchar.
John Conchar. I knew that was going. Yeah.
I mean, he's averaging like 16 rebounds in his last 2 games. Like,
he's like 6'4", but he's just the guy that just snatches rebounds. I think a lot of
that clip from The Last Dance where Dennis Rodman's like, "Ball's here, I go here. Ball's here." That's the calculus that's going through John Conchar's head.
Absolutely. I mean, he's got binary code tattooed on his forearm. Like, the guy's pretty cerebral, so he's out there. He's doing the same thing. Currently, we have Brandon Clark with a questionable designation, so I'm curious to see. He's been out for the last few games with that soleus strain. What I'm seeing right now is he's listed as questionable. I wouldn't be surprised if they ruled him out again, because sometimes when you have a muscle strain like that, it can take a couple of weeks. I know there was a lot of people teetering on the edge of falling off the cliff thinking he's going to be out for 3 months. I don't think that's going to be the case, but he's listed as questionable right now, as is Jake LaRavia. And so is Zach Edey. I haven't heard any other updates. This is just the latest. It's on ESPN. We'll see what comes out when the Grizzlies release their official injury report tomorrow morning, but hopefully we can at least get one of those guys back. That would go a long way in making me feel better about this team.
Yeah, you don't really want to run up against Domantas Sabonis with only the bigs being Jaren, Jay Huff, and Colin Castleton.
Yeah, because that's a disaster. That's a recipe for a 20 and 20.
And that's a recipe for foul trouble for Mr. 13. And
it is. We should get an update later this afternoon. Hopefully Edey will be included in that. Hopefully BC will be included in that. We'll know more obviously tomorrow on game day as they go through their morning shoot around and get moving and see how it goes. But hopefully we'll get some good news this afternoon, and we'll see about getting one of those guys back for the Kings game before we get Golden State at their place. And we're going to head into that game with the target on our back after how we embarrassed them in Memphis the last time we played. They still aren't going in a very good direction. Golden State's currently 16-16 on the year, 3-7 in their last 10 games. They're only 8-8 at home, just not playing winning basketball right now. And Steve Kerr looks clueless with his lineups and his rotations and the way he moves. He's been moving people in and out. That's a team that's struggling. And I don't know that they'll get it back in time for us, but the problem is we might be shorthanded.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. You go to Golden State with a free shot. Now, I know they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth, and we're going to be everybody. It's just human nature. But that once this game's over, you're headed home to Memphis after a long road stand. And so it's kind of hard to finish strong, especially if you go and win in Sacramento and you're feeling good and that on this road trip, the worst you can do is 3-2. Then it's kind of hard to get up again. However, there is juice in this matchup. I don't ever expect them to really lay a dud against Golden State unless it's on Christmas Day, which they've done. So.
Yeah, for sure. And again, if we get people back, the energy will be there. We'll have the bodies. We can do it. I would love, like you said, man, given the injuries that we've had, like coming into this road trip, 4-1 felt pretty good. Like I felt like we could get there. But if we could come out the other side of this at 3-2, say we drop one of the games this weekend, but we finish this road trip with the injuries that we've had, playing big John Conchar is our starting power forward. You're getting a lot of Castleton minutes. If you told me that we have an opportunity to go 3-2 on this road trip, I mean, that's like it's a bad day to be a Grizzly hater or a negative fan about this team right now, if that's the case.
Yeah. And, it is what it is with the injuries. I mean, you play the guys you've got. It's a tale as old as time for Grizzlies fans. But you play the guys you got, and luckily, our biggest ace in the hole is our depth. So you don't really feel scared going to Sacramento or going to Oakland with the guys you've got going up against these teams that are struggling. No doubt about it. The teams are not playing good basketball, either of them right now. And so you should go out there and win, even with your depleted roster. Jaren and Desmond are good enough. The big three, Jaren, Desmond, and John Conchar, that is good enough to go win these games.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. And, you want to have that negative energy about this team and about those injuries and about who we're running out there, be sure you stay on that side when we finish this road trip at 3-2 or better. Like, this road trip looked much more daunting a few weeks ago, but the Kings haven't been playing very good lately. They're obviously a dumpster fire, firing their coach, and De'Aaron Fox is likely on his way out. The Warriors are not what they used to be. They're definitely the dynasty's over, and they're a team on a free fall, not even a decline, a free fall. So 4-1 is not out of the realm of possibilities if we, again, get one or two key pieces back and play our basketball Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first part of the road trip is definitely the easiest part of that 11-game, 12-game span.
Mm-hmm.
Once the road trip's over, before we talk to you guys on Tuesday, we'll also have a home game against Dallas, and then Thursday, a home game against Houston before you go on the road again for a run that goes Minnesota, Houston, San Antonio twice before you come back home to get the Wolves. So,
that's a tough stretch.
The stretch run it may be coming home for a couple of days, but it's still a run.
Yeah, it is. And, we're a team. We're 15-5 in our last 20 games. We finished the month of December 10-4. Like, we played very good basketball through there. We're currently sitting on offense. We're first place in points per game, sixth place in field goal percentage per game, 12th in 3 points per game. We're second in assists at 30.5 per game. Defensively, we are third in offensive field goal, only giving up 44%. We're first in defensive field goal, giving up only 33%, third in blocks, seventh in steals, and second in rebounding. Like, we are a team that's on the rise. We've improved on our turnovers. We are still at the bottom of the NBA, but we're now only turning the ball over 16 times instead of over 17. So we're trending in a positive direction. Mm-hmm. But we're a team that's still playing really good basketball despite our circumstances. I've seen a lot of conversation this week on Twitter around like, oh, are these guys working out? Are they strong enough? What are these injuries? Like, if you look, most of ours are kind of freak injuries. Like,
it's bad luck injuries.
It's bad luck, man. And like, you can say that the front office has something to do with that, or the strength and conditioning has something to do with that. And you might have a case with the latter, but like, you can be as strong as you want to be. But if you step on an ankle like Vince did and roll yours, if you land awkwardly and break your foot, a bone in your foot like Gigi did, Marcus has just apparently got the lamest fingers in the history of all professional athletes. There's nothing that's going to prevent these injuries, but yet we're still finding a way to play winning basketball despite our injuries. And so again, if you want to hate on that, if you want to critique that, stay on that side. I don't want you back on our side once we start, if we continue winning at the tick that we are.
Yeah, I think you need to get off Twitter. You're getting a little sour. So people are stupid. Yeah, people are stupid.
They are.
I have gotten very good in my age of just chalking up stupid people as stupid people and moving on. So yeah,
that's very true.
This season we have seen John Morant twist his ankle by taking a pass to the foot. Like, nothing's out of this is bad luck. I mean, it just and most injuries are, unless you're getting taken out of the air by Christian Coloco on an alley-oop. Like, they're typically not trying to get injured here.
Right, correct. Yeah, nobody's trying to get injured. It's just bad luck, man. It is what it is. And speaking of bad luck, man, Jaden Ivey for the Pistons. Did you see that play where he broke his leg? Thankfully, of the two bones in your leg, he broke the better of the two. He broke the fibula, the skinny non-weight-bearing bone on the outside, not your big shin bone. So, yes, he is done for the rest of the year. But this is not like if you break your tibia, like you think about guys who've done that before, like that's a tough thing to come back from. Think Alex Smith, there's possibility you never play again. So thankfully it wasn't as bad as it looked like it could have been.
Yeah, Cole Anthony that was just a reckless play. You see that a lot. Marcus Smart is actually known for it. Just being overly aggressive on loose balls at people's feet. Like you just sometimes got to not make that play because Jaden Ivey was doing nothing but picking up a ball that was on the ground, and he got blindsided in the side of the knee by Cole Anthony. And I know Cole he's not a dirty player. He's just trying to be aggressive, and that's what you love about guys like him is the tenacity they play with and going for every single loose ball. But sometimes you just got to let bygones be bygones and let both players live to play another play, because
Mhm.
that was just reckless. And Jay Ivey, who is having a breakout season for a breakout team in the East, it just sucks. It just sucks to see him getting carted off on a stretcher. Just a bad look.
Yeah, real bad look. And last thing, Grizzlies NBA related that I want to touch on, Zion Williamson. It's coming out, getting traction again. It's that time of the year where it's like, is Zion going to stay in New Orleans? It feels like this is kind of a yearly thing. But with New Orleans in full-on blow-up mode, would you take a flyer on Zion Williamson in Memphis?
No, I've said before, I'm out. I can't be in on somebody that it seems like the problems with the recurring injuries is all weight related. And take it from somebody who knows weight related things takes a lot of mental toughness and drive to overcome. And if you don't possess that when you're getting paid millions of dollars, it doesn't seem the phrase that Taylor Jenkins uses ad nauseum as he coach speaks his way through a word salad. The words that he used more than any is care factor. And to me, it screams of poor care factor if you just can't get yourself in shape physically. And I know there's not many people that's just built like him that have ever played basketball before.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he was kind of fighting a losing battle to start with. But at some point, you got to feel like Zion's got to prepare himself to just see if he's got it. But he's just not seemingly motivated enough to get into game shape to see how good and how long he can play for.
Well said. I mean, in a vacuum, it works. Zion Williamson is one of the best athletes we've ever seen to be that big and that explosive and that good. Like the two handfuls of games that we've seen of him from his rookie year were amazing. And him and Jock could be an absolute force. Him and Jaren in the post could be an absolute force, but you just never know, like, how much desire, like you said, is there to get back to playing basketball?
Yeah. I mean, he is super Brandon Clark. I mean, you're talking about non-shooter, athlete, dunker. I mean, super Brandon Clark. And it just it's not going to pan out as long as he's playing like 35 pounds above like trim fit playing weight in the NBA.
Yeah. He put it best when his lackadaisical play is not what we need. I can't be talking about people butchering words, but here we are. So we're going to circle all the way back. We're going to wrap up a little college football. We started the show with it. We're going to finish the show with it as we do our real versus counterfeit segment here at the end. We're going to talk through some takes about college football. I'm still working out some of the bugs of the QR code, so that'll be back next week, hopefully. So, Drew, hit me with your first real versus counterfeit take on college football.
Yeah, so we've watched, we've made it through the second round of the playoffs, sans one game that is going to kick off here in about 2.5 hours. But of the teams that are left, Jeremiah Smith is the best player in the college football season. Real or counterfeit?
That's real, man. That kid is, and he's like 18 years old. He's a freshman. Yeah. Like, he's just so freaking
special, man.
Good. Yeah. Just when he had that long house call early in that game yesterday, like there was nobody on that field that have even come close to catching him. Like his speed is unbelievable. Athleticism is unbelievable. It's just wild that we have two guys like him and Ryan Williams are two of the most dynamic college football players. And Jeremiah Smith is the best one still playing.
It was so fun. I was thinking it yesterday and watching the game. Then they threw up the comparisons and they did like Terrell Owens. But I was like, man, that is Julio Jones. Big bodied, fast dude. Like that looks like Julio Jones. And for him to have this breakout game yesterday, I mean, he scored his, I think, 13th and 14th touchdowns of the season as a true freshman. I mean, he was absolutely amazing. He took that fourth play of the game. Just a little outside pass by the corner, and there was no safety that could even come close to touching him.
Julio's a good comparison because if you watch it in real time, like he doesn't look that fast, but as players are trying to catch him, he's just like steadily pulling away. And that's how Julio and Derrick Henry are because they're such big guys that like they don't look that fast until you're trying to catch them.
The next real versus counterfeit that I had, it's kind of more bracket related. So conference champions should not continue to get first round buys, real or counterfeit.
I'm going to go counterfeit. I think that you have to be specific with it. Like, I think because if you say conference champs don't get a first round bye, then it just completely negates even having a conference championship game. And a lot of conferences would do away with it, which may not be a good thing in the long run, but it also takes away another football game. And so I think leaving the conference champions as a first round bye, but a group of 5 conference champ should not get a first round bye. They should get a home field 5th seed, but I don't think they should be one of the top 4 getting a bye because Boise State had no business playing in that game against Penn State. They were outclassed, outmatched, and they just didn't have the dogs to keep with them.
I tend to disagree. I thought Boise State held their own. I mean, they got down early, and it was virtually a 50-50 game from that point forward. They just kind of got beat. Now, I will say that I am down on Penn State, and Penn State has by far the easiest path to the semifinals, as you can tell. You know, they played SMU and they played Boise. So it's a very easy path for Penn State. However, I thought Boise State kind of held their own. Given the fact,
never close.
Ashton Genty wasn't very good. They circled the wagons on Ashton Genty and dared Madsen to beat them, and Madsen just wasn't going to do it. That team wasn't good enough to do it. I say it's absolutely real. You get rid of all first round buys, or you get rid of the first round buys to conference champions. I know that you're going to look at that and say like conference champions are going to get left out. However, if you look at the final college football playoff poll that they set the bracket by, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, and Penn State would have been your buys. That's 2 teams, the best 2 teams from the best 2 conferences would have gotten buys. I think that that's the most fair way to do it. And no way should Arizona State have a bye. No way should Boise State have a bye. No way should those are the only 2. Yeah.
Yeah, Clemson would have been the other one to get a bye. Yeah, they would have been the other one to get a bye. But
right. But that's the reason why you don't give buys to conference championship games. I know they want to keep the importance of conference championship games, and I am sympathetic to that. I want them to matter. However, I don't think that that's the way to do it. I would absolutely get rid of buys to conference champions, but I would go a step further. And my last real versus counterfeit, the college football playoff bracket should expand to 16 teams. Get rid of buys altogether.
That's real. And I think that you should be on college campuses until the semifinals, maybe the championship. I love that's one way. If you're going to do away with buys, the conference champion buys, like give somebody something to play for. Because if you do away with conference championship buys, you're probably doing away with conference championship games. Even though they make a ton of money, they probably won't completely get rid of them. But they won't matter. But give the team something to play for. So, you may not get a bye, but you get home field until the semis. And that's huge for teams like Notre Dame, where it's cold, or, Texas or LSU or Georgia, these teams that typically have rowdy environments. Let them have something to play for and earn throughout the year.
Yeah, so I would just leave it at the first round, because if you expand to 16 teams, there are no buys. There are 8 first-round games. And the higher seeds play at home, the lower seeds travel. And then the semis would be, let's see, I've got it here. The semis, the final 4, you would have the rose, the sugar, the peach, the cotton, and you have the fiesta and the citrus. And then the final game just be your conference, your CFB play championship game. But then you can still play your Rose Bowl, which I think should just forever be played. The rest of them I don't care about. Rose Bowl needs to be played. But this is what the 16 team thing will look like. If you look at who was upset by the snub, who got snubbed, there's really 3 teams. It was Ole Miss, it was South Carolina, and it was Miami, who felt like they had a real case, and Alabama, 4 teams. You had a real case. Outside of that, nobody argued that. But in that case, all 4 of those teams get in. And this is what the bracket would look like. So I took the 16 teams, I stacked them up, put them into a bracket of just like it looked like 1/4 of a March Madness bracket. 16 versus 1, Oregon, Clemson. Who would not be in for that? 8-9, Indiana, Boise. 4-13, Penn State, Miami as a 13 seed. 5 seed would be Notre Dame versus 12 seed Arizona State. Georgia, South Carolina, the 12-15 on the other side of the bracket. Tennessee, SMU. Texas, Ole Miss in Austin. And Ohio State hosting Alabama as a 6-11 matchup. That is so much better than what we've got here, especially considering you had buys that were not deserved based on conference championship tie-ins.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Let's make it more like the Division II playoffs. They tend to go a little bit better. I like how they've got those set up where you can roll through your 16 teams and it still gets you more football. So we did get a comment. I do want to talk about that as we're starting to close out the show. Shout out Omega Fortnite. Thanks for being here. Even though you're late to the party, thanks for showing up. We appreciate you being here. I did see Tripp roll his ankle at the end of the game. It only bothered him in the moment. He kind of hobbled like just for a couple of minutes and then finished the game fine. He's been at practice all week. There's been no indications that it's going to bother him or slow him down. We should be getting an injury report update this afternoon. We'll get a more official one tomorrow before the game, but we should get an update. I really don't expect him to be on that list at all because of the way he finished the game, playing well and didn't seem to hamper him. But I did hold my breath for about a minute and a half there as he was underneath the goal, favoring that ankle a little bit.
Yeah, I did not see it. I was at a New Year's Eve party at my mother-in-law's, so unfortunately I was not able to catch the end of that game. But you know, I always say that I don't want to see players that finish the game on the injury report for injuries that they played through. However, routinely we see players miss the next game for games that they played through injury. And so it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not. And so we'll see what happens. We should get some news today.
Yeah, agreed. You know, perfect example, Zach Edey. He finished out the Pelicans game, woke up the next morning with concussion symptoms, and ended up not playing. But we're going to wish good things, thoughts and prayers to Jaren's ankle. He's going to be fine. He's not going to appear on that injury list, and we are going to be just fine. So, Uncle Buck, that wraps up our Thursday edition of the $2 Sports Show. We appreciate all y'all being here. Omega Fortnite, thanks for being in the comments. If you tuned in, thank you for being here, listening to us, yammer on for the last 45 minutes and spending your lunch break with us. We appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate you tuning in. But there are no refunds for what you hear on the $2 Sports Show.
That's right, Rusty, because with the $2, you always get what you pay for. And like I said, the world is spinning right back on its axis. So have a good weekend, everybody. Yeah. Happy 2025. Watch the Grizzlies. We got 3 games before we come back, and we talk to you again on Tuesday.
That's it. Be a friend. We'll see y'all on Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to the $2 Sports Show. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.